It's Alexis and Mark, and this is Dishing with Dad. You had a few interviews this week for new jobs, and I'm curious as to how they went, but B, it's interesting that you are looking for a job, right? Because for as long as I can remember, you had the same job for 28 years, right? So this is interesting for me. You're in my world now. You're in contractor-ish
World.
kind of world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How's it
It's
going?
definitely a different world, between my wife and you being contractors in the past and currently. Definitely get some good advice from you guys as to how to work the world, I guess you would say, or what to look out for and things like that. But it's definitely a strange feeling, that's for sure. Looking for work as somebody who's been in the industry for a long time. Okay, aged up, we'll call it. And I definitely go into this not thinking, okay, I always believe that ageism is just bullshit. Okay, in the end, because experience will win the day, right? But I don't want to say, and don't get me wrong, I've never seen it on anybody's replies or anything like that, but it definitely feels that way. And I don't know if it's because I've been searching for a few months now, and I've had spotty interview opportunities. And the only ones that seem to reach out to me are recruiters that more look at the experience than they look at anything else.
Oh, wait, you said that you have, so it sounds like you're starting to feel a little bit of the ageist push.
I think that may be more me than it is the actual feedback I'm getting. I'm not getting interviews, so therefore I feel like, okay, there's a reason why. There are indicators on my resume that say, yeah, he's a done risk in 5 to 10 years if we hire him. Hiring managers, I have to think about, okay, this person is going to be here for the long haul, and I want to make sure this person, 5 years from now, I'm not back here looking for someone for this job again. As strange as it sounds, I firmly believe that kind of goes through minds of HR. As a former manager, people talk about that. We talk all the time about, okay, how long do we think this person is going to stick around?
Okay. You're talking about the investment essentially. It's we're investing time and money into training up somebody who can be in this role, and we're expecting and hoping you to be in this role for 5+ years. And
exactly.
So I can see why that is a bit of a hesitation. Now, in your interviews, I'm sure when you get interviews, is that something that is mentioned or asked, whether by you or by them, or it's hey, I'm Mark and I'm here, I'm looking for love, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. You know what I mean? Do you say that, or do they ask?
There are no hints of saying, hey, let's talk about, how long you're thinking of, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I thank God I haven't heard that question, because I never asked that question as a manager. And I certainly hope, I feel like good managers throw that question, bad managers throw that question out there because they don't know what to ask. Okay. Versus starting to dig down. In some cases, some managers have asked me, or hiring managers have asked me, tell me about your history. Okay. It's a generic question like that. I have, after so many interviews, I've managed to pull that down to, when I graduated from college, I started here. I don't point out to the fact of, I started in 1996 doing this, right? Because that immediately might put you on the back foot. So just a thought, remembering that. But, even my resume, while I'm proud of the 30 some odd years I've been working as a project manager, my resume only really says 15+ years of experience. You see what I'm saying?
Why?
Well, because
you worked at this one company for 28 years. Why on God's green earth would you say that it's only 15+ years?
No, absolutely. And honestly, that's just the feedback I've been getting is watch out for the little indicators like that give away kind of your age.
Okay, I'm sorry, but when they meet you and they see that you're going Silva on the side, they're gonna know.
Oh no, yeah, you make a few assumptions, but the problem is when you meet face to face, they can't make that. In my opinion, they can't make that ageism, because a lot of people I've been meeting with are senior executives, and they've been around for a while, so you no longer have to worry about that.
But when you got let go,
yep,
how did that make you feel? And then how did it make you feel with regards to like, were you daunted about entering the job market again? Or like, tell me more about that.
Um, tough question, to tell you the truth. Okay, so my whole last 5 or 10 years working, I built a team, and I knew, and my objective as a manager was to build that team to say, basically say, hey, if the company needed to downsize today, come get me first, not my team. Thinking about the multiple people that work underneath me, because in some senses I was getting paid pretty well, and so therefore I could absorb time away from work if necessary. Whereas a lot of people live in paycheck to paycheck because of how the system works.
Well, and they also probably had kids. And I know some of your team,
Exactly.
former team. It's like they had
Exactly.
kids who
So
were still in
I,
school.
I was hoping to be a shield first, because my salary covers 3 or 4 people, and so if that saves 3 or 4 people, then by all means come get me. So I'd already braced for a simple fact of the day may come. So my mental state was like, okay, fine. When it finally came, okay, wow, they actually took it. It's like, okay, well, then there you go. But
was part of that mindset of like, oh wow, they finally took it. Like, it seems like you're a little surprised. Like, is that just because you worked for a massive company that like it's kind of surprising that they would?
And I hate to say I fell into the mental trap of I'm not expendable. We were doing so much work at the time, and so we're working in a direction that needed to be done, and I feel like office politics more put me into that mode, in that bucket, than an actual need to cut. Okay, but it's neither here nor there. It's not something I could control, and that's something to remember as you're working through. Sometimes, first, your initial reaction, if you ever get removed from a role, is you're pissed. Okay, why couldn't you do X, Y, and Z? You start trying to figure out who else, why else. Why don't you go find somebody else? But the reality is, you have no control of it regardless. Even if you find it could have been somebody else, you have no control. Your manager's not going to turn around and say, it's like trying to find a referee in soccer. You're not going to win. Why? You bitch and moan for a few seconds and then move on. Okay? That's always been kind of my attitude. Is like, okay, well, what have you learned from it? What can we do? But the good thing is the company covered me with my salary, pretty much a full year's worth of salary, based on just level of experience. So working for a company for a long time does have some benefits in that sense. Okay.
So when it sounds like you kind of almost went through the 5 stages of grief, sort of.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I've never read it or understand it. So I'm sure I probably added a 6th stage, to tell you the truth.
What was your 6th stage?
I have no idea, because I don't know what the 5 stages are, so I can't tell you. But so there might be some undefined stage that I'm producing. I produced at the time. But no, the reality is that I kind of had to take a chance to take a step back, reset myself. I took some time away from actually looking for a job. I actually sat down and made a plan to say, I'm going to take it easy for 3 or 4 months and then get back in the market. And that actually worked out and worked in my favor, and it did work for me. Okay. And then
hold on, I have the 5 stages of grief.
Super.
It's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Okay, so let's walk through them. Denial.
Like, is this really happening to me? This can't be happening to me. This isn't happening.
There was there, and I would say it wasn't a hardcore like denial. Surprise, yeah. Denial, maybe. But then we move on. Anyway, next.
Anger.
No, I would say no. But I'd have, I'm a guy. My short-term memory is not there.
We have to talk about that later. Just because the fact that you said that you're a guy, like what, you don't experience anger?
Oh no, we experience anger. It's just, do I feel like it was anger as part of something else, or something else as part of it, the anger is encased in that? Who knows?
Well, I don't know. It's like sometimes you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you're just angry for no bloody reason. And like that could, it's like maybe it's because of the fact that you got
right. I'm angry because I woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
All right, moving on. The next one is bargaining. I don't know how you can bargain.
I don't even know how you define bargaining.
Well, in some cases it can be like, the way it's been explained to me is in some cases it's like, well, let's say it's a lot of times people assume the 5 stages of grief are because somebody's died. Let's just go with that, right?
Yeah.
So bargaining can be like, oh, if I had done this, or maybe they'd still be alive or whatever, or even talking to God and saying like, "Oh God, please bring them back. I'll give you my firstborn child." Like, I don't know, like
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I'd say that I did a little bit of bargaining, but I think that was bargaining before I actually got removed, downsized.
Okay, so I mean,
So
again, but like all of that stuff can, in theory, like the theory is that you kind of have all of those, even if they're like, you spend only an hour in one and then you spend 10 days in the other,
okay,
segment. So the last one is the second to last one, the penultimate one is depression. Did you ever experience any of that when you got let go?
not no. I would definitely. I experienced what I guess you call disappointment in myself. Feel
Sure.
like being a provider in the household, and you
Mm.
feel like you let people down. Is that a form of depression? It's difficult to categorize. So you know, have it with what you will. But I did sit down and sit back and say, I feel like I let you down. Type of discussions, yes.
Who did you have those kinds of discussions with?
So mom and we basically, I went and rented a cabin for a weekend, and we just kind of sat by the fire and just kind of had a conversation. Just said, I just feel like I let you down, in that sense.
Well,
Don't know
you've
why
always been
because
the just to kind of put things into context for people who are listening, like, you've always been the primary breadwinner. Like mom works. I'm not saying that, but
yeah.
you've always been like I mean, with the nature
Unfortunately,
of your work, it's been
the
consistent.
disparities are just monstrous,
Yeah.
as far
Well,
as
which is
salaries are
crazy because
concerned.
she has a master's degree and you don't.
Oh, no, absolutely, no, exactly. So
Another thing we should talk about one day.
she's definitely the smarter one in the household, that's for sure, and certainly deserves more than I do in some senses. And so therefore, it's amazing. So letting the family down in that sense is definitely a discussion we had in that point. She's very reassuring and caring. It's one of those things like you always want to be, and she was a very good listener. Okay. She obviously can't solve. So therefore it's listening. It's always the things that from my point of view, you and I have come to that conclusion in our lives. It's like, hey, we call each other. It's like, do you need me to solve something or you just want to listen? And usually the conversation always like, listen, I'm having a pissy day. I just need you to listen.
How did you move past that to like so that way you didn't beat yourself up
Well, I think I needed that talk.
with
Simple and
mom at
straightforward.
the
Yeah,
cabin?
I just needed that talk because we plan all the time. Okay, a new player has entered the building, so therefore we need to adjust to that new player. And so we talk all the time about the what ifs. Okay, now what? Now what? So that once I got over that over a couple days, then we went to the now what? Okay, what's our plan here? This is what I'm thinking there. And the good thing is, in any relationship, you should be able to state something and your partner or partners or others should be able to disagree and you take that information seriously before rendering a new decision. Okay. Versus, okay, I'm locked on to my own thought process and I'm going to perform this and not take into account everything else, because then you're not listening to the other person. Okay. So we just kind of sat back and just kind of constantly adjusted to it, and I think in a sense it's worked out a little. There's still a little sense of chaos out there because I'm now in the contract world, so therefore everything's limited in time and scope.
So yeah, you're new to the contract world, and first of all, I'm really happy that you and mom had that conversation. Like, I've always thought that you guys have been like, especially as we've all aged together because that's how time works. Your guys' relationship has always been a really good North Star for me as to how to be human. Like, I know that
Yeah,
sounds weird, but it's like, I feel like as a child, you expect your parents to be perfect. And you guys have never, and that's impossible. That's impossible. But like, I love your guys' relationship and that you're able to, talk, argue, but then resolve and move forward.
yeah.
So compliments to one of the chefs.
And well,
And
yeah, as I say, and don't get me wrong, there are points at which you just have to eat it.
yeah,
Okay,
for sure. You're just
you
like,
know, you got to
okay,
cut the arm. You got to cut the arm off to save the rest of the body.
this is not the
Um,
hill it's gonna die on. No.
yeah, exactly. You have to really think about the hills that you're fighting on.
But
And
we're winding down on time here.
yeah,
And so I wanted to ask you, you're in the
yeah,
contracting world and stuff like that. So
yeah.
how's the job search? How are the interviews and stuff like that going? Are you still looking into contracting? Are you looking into
Honestly,
full time
I feel
or
like nobody should ever discount contracting, especially if you have experience, because it gives you an opportunity to look at and go to different places and gain new experiences, which I think is going to be valuable and marketable in the long run. Trying to find one that's in my specific wheelhouse is much more difficult because sometimes over time that many years you grow into a niche of expertise. And as technology and people evolve, that expertise either just goes up exponentially or it becomes stagnant because that technology is now old technology. So that's the bad part about being locked into a full-time role. But in a contract role, you at least then can evolve and learn.
You have the chance to go and get lots of different perspectives in a way shorter time than you would if you were just working in a single position.
Yeah, I mean, think about it from the flip side. I mean, you're always on contract. Basically, there is no such thing as a full-time role for you right now. Going back to the ageism thing, this is where I'm kind of jealous in the world that you work in. Okay, just to be clear,
you mean the contract world or the media world?
The media world. Okay, just to be clear, I think you've been working longer than me, practically total. Okay.
I mean, by the time I get to your age, for sure, because I started working as a teenager, but
exactly.
Because again, well, that's the one thing with contracting is that then it's just like, and then like your resume is this long versus like, and then people, again, it's like there's pros and cons to everything, right? Where you're seeing the pros of contracting, which I see, which is like you can go get all of these little tiny experiences. Maybe your contract's 6 months, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 18 months, whatever. And you can get all these, or maybe it's 3 months, it's like you can get all these little experiences very quickly. Right, they're almost master classes.
Yeah,
but in some cases it actually works against you because then people are like, well, why aren't you in one place? And and again, it kind of depends on what the company's looking for.
Right, which are questions that you won't get as much in your industry unless you're trying to do back office type of work.
Yeah, not unless I'm trying to do full time, which I don't mind. Frankly, it's kind of where I'm technically a contractor, but I'm full time at this one position.
Right.
Like I don't have really time to go pick up other stuff.
There's a role I've been interviewing for that's kind of like that too. It's basically as long as you're doing your job, you're always going to have a contract.
Being a contractor allows you to write more of your own story. So it's like, what is it that I want to do? You do have to think about like you had mentioned, the marketing, the marketability of these skills.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what you want from your career. And so I think, and again, we're kind of winding down on time here, but like, I'm curious to know, you came from a place of having 28 years of this one position in this one company. Yeah. Are you looking to do something more like contracting at this point in this late mid career part of your life?
Making the jump from full-time to contractor still feels like you're kind of a little bit lost. Okay. Because, you've been working for a long time and all of a sudden you got looped into short term and you feel like, okay, I'm just hunting and finding anything and everything under the sun because I just don't. There's a hole after 28 years of worth of work. Okay, I won't lie to you. There's a hole there. You feel like it's unfulfilled because, day in and day out, you woke up, you did this job. Now it's day in and day out, you woke up, you do this job, but tomorrow that job may not be there anymore. You're always had that in the back of your brain, right? And so that's where I feel like I'm just not used to that. It's like when I talk to you,
it's a scarcity mindset. It's a scarcity mindset that's hard to accept.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I talk to you about it, you're like, dude, that's how contracts work. I mean, you are literally so non-emotional about losing a contract because you've done so many contracts in your life.
I mean,
this is how contracting works, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, contracting is a scarcity mindset thought. And like for me, it's where the financial side comes into it really quickly, where I'm like, I know I have 3 months worth of backing. So like if I lost my job tomorrow, and that's the only reason why it's not bigger is because I'm paying off my student loan still, which I'm so close to being done. Yeah. But I've got 3 months worth of backing. So I'm like, if I lose this tomorrow, I'm good. I'm golden. We're fine. Yeah. And that would give me enough time to either pick up a contract or go pick up a barista job or both or whatever. Right. So I think that scarcity mindset in some ways it can either bury you or it can bounce you up. Like you have to really look at it as an opportunity to be like, okay, like I have to be a shark today. Like it's, in some ways it's kind of fun because you're not always on the hunt,
Yeah. And the one thing I'm learning about this process is that recruiters are out there hunting for you as well. Okay. And they are looking for a higher level of experience. But it's just,
that means more,
but you always feel like recruiters are just there to fill numbers, not necessarily to fill specific, but there are recruiters who have these niches that just like, hey, I've got, I just look for executives. I just look for C-suite. I just look for customer service agents. I just look for that. So they're always out there looking for something. And I'm starting to learn that because I've gotten inquiries, at least from recruiters from that, not necessarily interviews, but inquiries. and I know that they're out there. The thing about it is
are you looking for something that's full-time, or are you looking at contract? Or are you kind of looking at everything right now and kind
no,
of like, what are
I've
your
always been
goals?
I've always been open to everything between full time and contracting. I know a lot of people are like, well, okay, that's not a goal. That's just I want a role. I'm going, well, you know something? I think it's a little bit of both. Definitely want to continue working and imparting my knowledge. But at the same time, though, do I feel like a full time job would be great? Sure. If the benefits are nice, that there's a stability there. But at the same time, contracting does allow you to step out and go to another opportunity.
Well, and also I think
Don't get
there's a
me wrong.
culture. There's a
What's
culture
that?
thing too. Like especially when you're planning on taking a full time role, it's a
Yeah,
bigger commitment because you have to consider the culture of the place too. Like, are you willing to
absolutely.
be
And
spending 40
unfortunately,
hours
you're
a
not
week
really
with
going
these
to.
people?
And unfortunately, with today's day and age of hiring, it's very difficult to figure out the culture. Okay, when I first started getting and going for jobs and stuff like that, I was brought on site, did an on site interview, met a few more of the staff and things like that, just to get kind of a feel for what it's like on site. If you bring people in every so often, you're going to want to understand the culture and what you're being brought into, even if it's just once a month. I think culture is a big thing, which is much more difficult to figure out now. Hence the reason why people job hop. I know a lot of people job hop because they're like, oh, I just want more money. I feel like I'm undervalued. Word of the wise, you're always going to feel undervalued. Okay, period. If you feel comfortable hopping, great. But moving out of a company into another role, it's like, in some senses, it's selfish because, again, you talked about it earlier, the time and value and training that people put into you, and then you just hop on out of there. So, people looking at me from an ageism point of view, saying, oh, well, in 5 to 10 years, he's gone because he's going to retire or whatever it is. Okay.
Well, and also I feel like to assume that nowadays, especially because it's like you don't know people's financials, and also like at the end of the day, unless you're forcing someone out.
Yeah.
And financials aside, right? Like finances aside, let's assume that the person in question here has their finances sorted and everything's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But maybe they want to keep working. Like, why does it have to be, oh, well, when you turn 65, that's it,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
get
where
it.
I was
Or
more really
67,
going,
whatever it is
where
now.
where I more was really going is you run more danger the younger job hoppers than you do with the older ones that want to stick around until retirement, that want a job at my age. I hate to say that, but it seems like a pattern that I've been noticing in a lot of places is they want the younger, cheaper staffing, but at the same time, though, they don't really realize what the up costs have been because they're job hopping.
They're job hopping
Okay.
and they also don't have the experience.
Yeah. And I'm sure, and I'd definitely like to hear some feedback from other people about that. Maybe I'm just making some negative assumptions and I'm just bitter sounding. So be it. But coming from my age and experience, I feel like that's what I'm also seeing too. Um, because it's talked about in articles that, people only sticking around in jobs for 2 to 3 years. Now, companies need to be paying better to make them feel like, but I feel like no matter how much more you pay somebody, there's always somebody else that's going to get paid an extra $1,000 that they'll jump jobs, right? And they'll offer, oh well, instead of 3 days a week on site, we'll offer you 2 days a week on site, and sometimes people just want to do that. Um,
It sounds like there's just a lot that it sounds like you're kind of open to everything, and it sounds like there's a
yeah,
lot. I mean, as with everything, there's always a lot of factors, right? Like there's
yeah,
negotiations to be had, there's things to understand, cultures to navigate, within companies. I think there's just
yeah.
like a
And
lot.
be somewhat transparent with the recruiter. It's kind of funny because I'm knee deep in this recruiting process right now, being recruited, and I've been really transparent in what my wants and needs are as far as a contract is concerned, and it hasn't shaken them.
So the fear in this case was that you were going to scare them off because what you want and need is too much.
Pretty much for somebody with a lot of experience, you're going to end up paying for that experience. And the question is that what you're valuing at this time? So I go in and say, okay, this is what I'm kind of looking for, but also being transparent. Somebody else is offering me this, playing against each other as well. It's definitely an interesting dynamic I've learned over time that people probably don't realize that they do have somewhat of a power to do and get. So for those people looking for a job hop or something like that, use that leverage to gain better contracting or contract with your current company versus jumping ship.
Sure.
You know,
Unless you're just trying to
because
leave because the culture sucks, or you're moving,
exactly,
or
yeah,
you
whatever,
need
yeah,
child care,
negative factors
whatever.
within the company aside, Okay, assuming that making the big assumption that that's not what the problem is, it's just you feel like you're undervalued a little bit. There's one thing that's guaranteed: if you're not an advocate for yourself, that's a problem. Okay, I always feel like HR's role is also to make sure that they're keeping an eye on the market, to make sure that the price range at which the resources that work for you are getting what that's within that market range, and they're not doing it. So you have to be the advocate to point out that, hey, my market has gone up by 20K this year. Okay. Not necessarily looking for the 20K increase, but they may come and say, oop, you're right. How about another 10K on top of the 5K we just gave you for your raise?
And 2 days in the office instead of 3. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I know HR is busy, but I also firmly believe that's their role, is to make sure that
it's like it's their job or something.
Yeah. They claim that they do market research all the time. Great.
Let's see it. So do I. I'm the one whose livelihood is on the line. Let's find out.
I think that's more the reality is that they have so many different job roles that they need to go out to figure out what the current market is, that it does take them 6 to 12 months to get back around to it. And then, of course, dealing with internal budgets, but let's not even talk about that. But you are your own best advocate to say, yeah, I've looked at 3 or 4 different resources, and 3 or 4 different resources say I should be getting paid XYZ more now.
At the time of this taping, you're still looking for a job. Yep. Good luck with that. And I know, you obviously had a contract in between when you were let go from your, position of 28 years at this one company and now. So it's not like you haven't been working, it's not like you haven't been working. So Congrats to that, and good luck. I'm excited to hear more about your journey.
Well,
I think we're out of time though for the day.
There's definitely some additional feedback that I've been looking at and writing down, just to it's like one of those things. Like, I like the job searching of itself can't be frustrating, but writing in your own journal, so to speak, is a smart thing to do, because it kind of gets it off your chest. But I also feel like, when I'm done with all this, I'll probably do a small post on LinkedIn, since, I do find that that's a good place too, of like-minded people within your network. And, everybody generally seems to care about your job situation one way or the other. HR generalists, recruiters, fellow people, that do your job.
Colleagues,
even executives in for that matter. They always have some good input as to what to look for. So, LinkedIn's been very good about at least kind of providing that level of information. I feel like, I've got a story to tell there as well.
Well, yeah, like I said, I think we're about out of time for today. I'm really happy we got to catch up about this because, obviously I care. And it was good to see you, Dad. So
yeah, it's good to see you too. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this, and hopefully everybody, information on parties will help you out, in case you ever find yourself having to find a new contract at that point. And, if anybody else has any thoughts on it, that I would appreciate that too, because in the end, it does take a village to kind of figure it all out together. And, our village is of 2 people. And so, I'd like to make the village even bigger.
Agreed. All right, Dad. Well, I love you. I will talk to you next time, and we'll see all of you guys next time too. Thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. Take care, everybody.